Okay, guys, let's continue. So we know about nerve. That's excitable cells, and so then let's excite it. All right, so we can excite the cells, excite these neuronal cells through two major way. One is the major one that we can usually think about is a sensory. Just like the picture showing you here, these are the combination of two different group of cells. They are neuronal cells, they are sensory neurons to sense the environment. And then it can also send out another group of cells to trigger the muscle. These two are different nerve though, so they are not the same. They are not the one neurons to do both. Is the sensory neurons from the dendrites to the axon terminal. This one will be the motor neurons. From the dendrites here, they receive signal from the brain, and then to the axon terminal. Axon terminal will reach out to the muscle. So that's that. Let's look into the sensory. Let's look in. There are different kind of sensory nervous system we need to know about. So what are those? How do you need to make a comprehensive understanding of the sensory? Basically, let's move on to the next one. This one is a heat. So that's just an example. But here is so there are different kind of sensory. You can imaging that you can smell. That's a sensory, right? You can see. That's another sensory. And so those are the nerve, those sensory neuron. So all these are part of the sensory nervous system. You can smell, you can see, you can hear, you can feel body balance, feel the hand movement, body balance. That's the vestibular nervous system. To test. You can test food, right? Your tongues can test your sugar, right? Your juice, right? So those are the sensory, and you can touch. And so all these are sensory. So how do you make a comprehensive understanding of this? So basically what we need to know is that there are different kind of sensory signal. Sensory signal are basically what we will talk about are first is chemical. So for example, smelling are chemical. So these are chemical receptor. We have chemical receptor, we call them chemoreceptor. We can see those are photon, light, photon receptor, photoreceptor. We can hear here is a sound wave. So this one is more mechanical. So we could have the mechanoreceptor, and test feeling body balance is also mechanical, and test will be chemical again. So those uh, um, like flavor are chemicals, so we can test them. Those are chemicals. So you have the chemoreceptor for it. Touch is another mechanical. You have to have a mechanical change or deformation into your skin in order to sense that touch. So we need to first know different kind of the sensory signal type. And so that will be linked to the sensory signal type of those receptors. And then we need to know where are, so location and function, where are those receptors? Very much you kind of know because that's your body. But here we just, provide you some summary of those. You know skin, right? So that's where you have the touch. You know the eye, that is where you have the visual. So you know those locations, but we are going to look into uh, more scientific. It won't be too deep. We are not like spending whole year. We will just spend like 10 minutes or so. So you just need to know where are those. You kind of need to know the name. That's just that. And then we need to know how do those peripheral nervous system send to your brain. so you can have an understanding of what you see, what you touch, what you smell. So they all ends up in the brain. And so you can have a memory. When you see someone, it will match what you memorized. And so you recognize that person, right? So you got to have those signals sent to brain. So we will look into the brain portion that process these different sensory signals. So that's that. Probably like three major topic: sensory type, sensory organ, and the brain portion, something like that. Yeah. So let's begin by looking into the very first one. What is the very first one? Ta-da! The first one, somatic sensory, skin. Somatic sensory is very is kind of standing out. The reason is that you kind of get, we even though we really didn't really talk about it, but you kind of get that like all these different sensories, almost all of them are involved in your head, like your vision, your hearing, your taste, right? It's all in your head, right? Above your neck. The only thing that's not above your neck, or not only above your neck, is your touch. You can touch things on your face, so it's above your head, but you also have those below your neck, right? So you can touch. So that is a somatic sensory. So these are a somatic sensory. Their sensory type is are mechanoreceptors. You got to, when you, so here is, let me show you here. So you have different type of the somatic sensory receptor. You have the free nerve ending. So you know the skin already, right? So here is the epidermis from here to here. Actually, from here to here, only like that. Then here is the dermis, and this is hypodermis. And so some of these nerves are very superficial, like free nerve ending, the most superficial one. They are also a little bit less superficial, like Merkel's disc. You probably learned this in your skin already, but this is just a connection from those skin knowledge with the nervous system. So those are sensory nerve. You have different kind of receptor, cross and bob, that's another type. Root hair plexus. There are different names, like hair root ending, that's another name. So it will be sensitive when your hair got banged, right? It will sense it. So all these are mechanoreceptor. You have Ruffini and organ, Pacinian. This one is the most popular one, like a lollipop, right? You also have Messenger. Messenger is also just underneath these epidermis, right? So those are, you have different receptor, so it can sense different type of the pressure. So if you push it deep enough, you excite some. If you only shadow touch it, you excite another group. So you have a sense of different level of pressure. You also have a sense of different level of vibration. And you can sense different kind of like surface texture. So all these are because you have different kind of receptor. So the combination of all these will provide you different kind of perception. So that's that. So here is the location. Where are they in the skin? What type of these receptors? They are mechanoreceptors. Then these one will send to the brain. So these neurons, where are the neurons? This is nerve ending, very much like a dendrites, but where are the neurons? Neurons are located in the spinal cord, dorsal root of the spinal cord. So here is the spinal cord. We have two extent. We have the dorsal, like in your back, that's dorsal. Basically, all your back from your head, we call them occipital or parietal lobe. from your head all the way into your spinal cord, or your back portion of your central nervous system are sensory, or your front portion of your sensory nervous system are more like motor or action or decision making. So your back, dorsal, here in the dorsal, not inside of spinal cord, but extend the root of this spinal cord. We call this a dorsal root of a spinal cord. Here you have a neuron. So you have one neuron here. You have very long fiber, this efferents coming in, long fiber reaching out to your skin. So when there is a touch, action potential will travel all the way from your fingertip to the spinal cord. And then from here, it will then send signal from the spinal cord to the somewhere like a brainstem reaching to the medulla area and the brainstem here, and then crossing to the opposite side, and then keep on going to your brain. So that's where they end. So when you touch something, your brain sense it, brain will try to understand it. So that's that. All right, so where is a neuron? Neuron is in the dorsal root of the spinal cord. And where do they end? They will end at the opposite side of the brain, large brain, brain cortex. Which portion of that brain process it? Right here. So the portion of the brain, this is the brain, which portion process this somatic sensory is in the here. So here you can see that. So again, brain, you can have the front portion or back portion. The front portion are more like motor, the back portion are more like sensory. So they are in the back. They are in the, this part is called parietal lobe. So somatic sensory cortex is located in the parietal lobe. This is central sulcus or central fissure. And so that's right next to it. Primary, association area, all these are somatic sensory. So that's that. That's how you sense your touch. All right. The next one we are going to talk about is smelling. So this is the head portion. This is how you smell. You don't smell by your ear. You don't smell by your skin. You smell only by your nasal cavity. So your nose smell things. Your nose are the breathing organ, so air can come in. So this is the perfect place that you receive the air. And what type of receptor it is? So these are the chemoreceptor. Here is the nasal cavity. We have the sensory neuron reaching out to the upper layer of this nasal cavity. So these are, we call them olfactory sensory neuron. These neurons are in the epithelium cell, the skin area. You have the mucus. Does it show mucus here? Doesn't really show. So basically here you have a mucus. And so this neuron reaching out here are some dendrites. And here dendrites has the receptor. Here is the odorant molecule, fragrant, you can smell. They will bind on the receptor. When they bind on it, signal will send into very nearby. Here we have the bone, and this bone is called piriform plate. And so just above your nasal cavity, you will reach to your brain. So signal will coming up here. The very first brain site to receive that olfactory sensory is called olfactory bulb. This is the olfactory bulb. So they will receive those signals, and then they will transmit that signal into the olfactory cortex in the brain. So that's that. So what type of receptor it is? It's a chemoreceptor. Where is it? Where is in the nasal cavity? So nasal cavity basically is your sensory organ for smelling, olfactory sensory organ. So that's that. So this one summarizes what we just talked about. You have the olfactory sensory neurons, or called olfactory receptor cells. Those are neuronal cells located in the upper part of your nasal cavity. Then they send signal. This neuron has some dendrites. Here it called it cilia. Just morphologically look like cilia, right? But it basically is like in the nerve is dendrites. And then we have the receptor, we have the chemoreceptor to pick up different fragment. Human can smell about 4 different type of the odors. Some mammals are more sensitive to even more uh, uh, different type of chemicals, but human can smell already a lot, right? So that's that. When you receive those signals, you will send those directly into the brain. So here they will first send to the olfactory bulb, and then olfactory bulb will then reach to the olfactory cortex through a nerve. So here is in the central nervous system. So what's unique about the central nervous system? Their axons are bundled together by oligodendrocytes, by those myelins. And so these are bundled together. They form the cranial nerve 1. So let me show you this one here. So here are the olfactory bulb. If you look at the brain from bottom up, you see those olfactory bulb. And olfactory bulb will then send these axons all bundled together as an olfactory tract. These olfactory tracts are cranial nerve 1. Later, we will learn about different cranial nerve. I will just show you this one just very quickly to give you a concept that our brain has 12 pair of cranial nerve. Cranial nerve 1s are olfactory tract, are the sensory neurons for the olfactory nerve system. So that is a very simple, very straightforward quiz question. Which cranial nerve serve smelling function? That's a cranial nerve 1. So that's the very first one. Very yeah. So that's that. So we talk about the somatic sensory, we talk about the olfactory sensory, and let's take a break, and then we will talk about the other sensory nervous system.